Alright, so IB is concerned with you being able to compare, again, looking at your command term, which means some similarities and differences, be able to compare plants and animals. I don't care so much about fungi and protists, at least at the SL level, so what we're worried about is just plants versus animals. And this should be mostly a review from 9th grade biology, yet what you need to be able to do with this information is a little bit different. So let's talk a little bit about the similarities and differences. I'm going to set up a chart and put plants on the left and animals on the right. It doesn't matter which way you do it. But again, like I said in the prokaryotes versus eukaryotes review video, using a chart going item by item ensures that IB will give you the point. So if you're talking about similarities, saying that the plant has cytoplasm, then you need to also say that the animal cells have cytoplasm. Now IB is not going to give you a point for that because it's very basic, but that's the model. If one thing has it, then the other thing has it as well. That would be a similarity. If you're talking about differences, saying that plants have one thing while animals do not have that thing would give you a point, rather than saying plants have this thing and leaving animals blank hanging. That will not give you a point. So there are a few things that we need to make sure that you know and that you are able to give back to me if you're given the command term to compare plants to animals, or asked to distinguish plant cells from animal cells. So plants have, first thing we'll say is, plants have a cell wall on the exterior of themselves, on the outside, whereas animals do not have a cell wall at all. So that would be one difference. You get a similarity would be that plants have a plasma membrane, and just to give you some more detail, this is located just inside of the cell wall. And animal cells also have a plasma membrane. Plants have chloroplasts, whereas animals don't. Now, these are generalized plant and animal cells. So it's important to know that not all plants have chloroplasts. They might have some other plastid, which is a sugar storing or making organelle. Think of roots or potatoes. They're not green. They are part of a plant, so they're made out of plant cells. But they don't have those chloroplasts. And if you think a little bit about cell specialization, this comes into play as different cells have different jobs. And also, interestingly, chloroplasts and mitochondria, for that matter, have their own DNA, have their own ribosomes. They have 70S ribosomes, which gives us evidence for the endosymbiotic theory, and that chloroplasts can divide on their own. So in some kinds of cells, we have more chloroplasts than others. For example, leaves, which are really green, have a lot more chloroplasts, which have more thylakoids, in them, and it's within the thylakoid that we have the pigment chlorophyll that absorbs energy from red and green light and bounces off green light. Absorbs energy from red and blue and bounces off green light to our eyes, and that's why they appear green to us. But back to the comparison, plants have a large central vacuole, whereas animal cells have little vacuoles or no vacuoles at all. And if you think about the purpose of the vacuole, to store water, plants need that vacuole for water storage so that they can do photosynthesis. Remember, water is the first reactant of our light-dependent reaction. So it needs water. Plants can't exactly move very quickly to get water, so they store them. The other reason that they keep it in this large central vacuole is to provide some turgor pressure, some pressure from within, so that the plasma membrane is pushed against that cell wall. It's kind of like an inflated balloon, so that the cell wall, the cells can sit on top of each other, almost like bricks, lending to the fact that plants can stand up tall, vascular plants anyways, can stand up to be tall and compete for sunlight to continue to do photosynthesis. But it's because of that turgor pressure from the water within the plasma membrane. Think about plants, what happens to plants when you don't water them. Before they die, they start to wilt and lean over because they don't have the same turgor pressure. As soon as you give them water, they get that pressure back and they straighten out pretty quickly. Whereas animals don't need that, we can move to get that. Plants store carbs or carbohydrates as starch, like in things like potatoes that we eat. Animals store carbs as glycogen. So that's a pretty good connection back to our biochem unit. We're talking about our carbohydrates. Look back at your notes on carbs and sugars. Plants do not contain centrioles that are located within a centrosome, whereas animals do have centrioles within a centrosome. Additionally, because in plants the cell wall is present, and because it's rigid, they have a fixed shape. Usually, the book describes it as angular, but it's a pretty fixed shape. It's not mutable or not changeable, but because animals don't have that cell wall, they're without the cell wall, the cell is flexible and more likely to be round in shape. Now these are all differences. So there are some key similarities that you should know. Because plants and animals are both prokaryotic cells, both eukaryotic cells, they have something else in common. So if we go back to our pro versus eukaryotic cell chart, we would see that all eukaryotes have mitochondria. So they both have mitochondria. They have lots of other organelles as well, like the endoplasmic reticula, the smooth and the rough. They both have Golgi bodies. They both have, so these IB would give you points for. IB would not give you points for things like ribosome and nuclei. Yet those are things that are common between plants and animals. Okay, so that's a pretty good list. Make sure you commit this to memory because you need to be able to compare, as one of the assessment statements, compare plant and animal cells. Okay.